everyone. Today I'm going to explain 5 technical questions from the HCIP exam. Let's start with the first question. The first question is about BFD, which stands for bidirectional forwarding detection. The question says, the BFD state machine. Which states are involved when establishing a session? So it involves the down state, right? Then there's also the up state, since it detects whether the link is up or down, correct? And there's another situation, which is when the administrator manually intervenes. Right? Manual intervention means the administrator operates and changes it to one of these 3 states. So the correct answer is A, B, and C. The third one, C, refers to when the administrator shuts it down, so it doesn't participate in the normal process. The normal establishment process. So what is the normal establishment process? At the very beginning, there's an initialization state, which is called init. Right? There are a total of 3 states. The very first state is the down state. Then from the down state, it enters the initialization state. After that, it goes up. These 3 states, A, B, and D, are the ones it goes through. All right, now let's look at the second question. The second question is about this. It's about the 3-layer network. It says that all routing protocols in a 3-layer network have their own mechanisms for detecting link failures. Now, what do we say routing protocols belong to? They belong to the control plane, right? The control plane, right? But notice, it says all routing protocols. Pay attention, the question is about all routing protocols having link detection mechanisms. However, there is one type of routing protocol that does not have this, and that is static routing. Right? Static routing is also a type of routing protocol, so it does not have this mechanism. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is false. Right? So choose B.
Let's pause for a short announcement. Friends, if you're currently preparing for this ITification exam, or if you've been studying for a while but don't feel your preparation is very efficient, this is something you shouldn't miss. Our team has been focused on its certification dumps for 16 years, doing one thing consistently: organizing the most up-to-date, most exam-accurate, and easiest to use dumps to help candidates pass their exams more efficiently. Our dumps closely follow official exam updates. They are stable, highly accurate, and well aligned with real exam questions, allowing you to prepare with more confidence while spending less time. If you'd like to get the dumps for this exam and pass the certification faster, you can contact us directly via WhatsApp or YouTube private messages. We're happy to explain the latest update dates, dump stability, exam policies in different countries, as well as any current purchase discounts. Everything is clear and transparent before you decide. We also place great importance on payment security and privacy protection. The entire purchasing process is simple and secure, with no unnecessary data collection. Your personal information and privacy are fully protected. In addition, we provide 24/7 consultation and after-sales support. Whether you're just getting started or running into issues right before the exam, our support team will patiently and professionally help you analyze and solve problems. You're never preparing alone. Beyond this specific exam, our dumps cover almost all major IT certification tracks. If you plan to pursue other IT certifications in the future, feel free to reach out anytime. We'll give recommendations based on your goals.
Okay, the third question is about the VRP protocol. VRP, it is talking about version 3 of VRP. Right? The double V3 version. One of the statements is correct. And then this. So now VRP is divided into VR and V3, these 2 versions, right? Then it asks about the V3 version. About V3, which statement is correct? Let's look at option A. It says the default address, its priority is equal to 100. This is a fixed value. It's the factory default setting. Right? Being equal to 100 is correct, no problem. Then it says that V3 supports both IPv4 and IPv6. This is also correct because V2 does not support IPv6. Right? So that's why it gets updated. Besides, V3 was developed to support IPv6, so this is also correct. Both A and B are correct. And then there's C. It says the default interval for sending packets is 1 second. Right? Here, 1 second is also the factory default setting. So C is also correct. Right? And what about D? D is incorrect. That is, VRPv3 supports authentication. Saying it supports authentication is wrong. In fact, for VRPv3, in the RFC document 5798, they removed the authentication feature because the upper layer network itself can support what? It can support IPsec. IPsec is used for authentication, right? So we don't choose D. All right, question 4. For the fourth question, it's about when an enterprise is still using VRP when deploying the VRP protocol. What precautions can be taken to improve reliability? This is option A. For different VRP groups, VRP groups, set different virtual IPs. So this option is correct, right? And then we are here. For example, with two devices, say A and B, right? We have an uplink and a downlink, correct? So we can set up a separate VRP group for the uplink and another for the downlink, right? Here, the two devices negotiate with each other on the uplink, and the two interfaces on the downlink negotiate with each other as well, which affects the routing below, right? Here, we create a virtual IP, and above, we also create a virtual IP, two different groups, group 1 and group 2. There's no problem here. Then, for the same group B, the configuration of the switches in the same VRP group. That is configuring the same VRP version. So for the same group, I need to configure the same VRP version. That's also correct. How would you negotiate if the versions were different, right? Okay, now let's look at the next one, C. Well, B is also correct, and actually C is also correct. It says that the virtual IP address of the VRP group must be in the same subnet as the interface, right, for my device. For example, device A and device B, if my interface address is, say, 172.16.1.1 and the other interface address is 172.16.1.2, then if we create a virtual IP together and I set this virtual IP as 192.168.1.1, is that allowed? That definitely won't work, right? I can't just make things up. It has to be in the same subnet as those two, right? So this virtual IP needs to be able to communicate with them. So this is correct. In short, the answer is D. It says that manually configuring the VRP's virtual MAC address can improve security, but that's all about virtualization. Since we're using virtualization, if you manually configure it, aren't you just hard coding it? Right? This thing can negotiate automatically. As long as we configure the VIP, it will automatically generate the VMAC. Right? So there's no need for us to configure it manually. So the correct answers are A, B, and C. All right, let's look at question 5. Question 5 is about BMD. It says that BMD can quickly detect faults in multi-layer network channels. So which layer does the BFD protocol belong to? Let me tell you, these things are all called applications. So what do they all belong to? They belong to the application layer. Right? They all belong to the application layer. It's just a matter of where you deploy them. Don't be misled by this, okay? For example, take the ARP protocol. Where does it operate? It operates at layer 2. But what layer protocol is it actually? It's an application layer protocol. Right? So it's also an application, meaning it's at the application layer. It just doesn't need what? It doesn't need the transport layer, and doesn't need the network layer, right? What it directly needs is the data link layer. And then there's this one. This protocol is also an application. It's also at the application layer, and it doesn't need the transport layer, right? But it does need the network layer and the data link layer, right? It all depends on how the developer designs it, doesn't it? So BFD is also an application. So the answer is B. All right, if you want to learn Huawei communication technology, or if you want to get Huawei's question bank, please send me a private message. You can also leave a comment below the video.